Hi, Kalpun Piso here. I'm going to be discussing Christian Nazism. See, Nazism is nothing but another branch of Christianity. And, you know, white race, supremacism, the SS, which is a symbol of the sun, runic symbols, representing the bodyguards of Hitler. That was the new Messiah. He considered himself the new Messiah. Here. That's why they got
totalitarian government.
Yeah, Christian.
What happens to the people who do science under a totalitarian
Christian
government?
Nazism.
And what happens to them when the totalitarian nature of that government becomes apparent and real?
Don't forget about the religion.
Their ornithologist and leader knows exactly what Himmler wants to hear. Schaefer announces that the goals of SS ideology and research are the same.
Both are conducted by pioneers. Both make use of selection. Both are based on character and spiritual values given to us by our Germanic heritage.
Exactly, Christian values, yes.
Privately, Schaefer sees Tibet as the place to practice his passion for hunting, collecting rare plants and animals. After a week-long pursuit, he bags his great prize, the previously unknown Shapi. It's still a puzzle to biology today.
Looking for the Aryan race.
He also tracks down another mysterious creature. This is the land of the Yeti, the abominable snowman. Schaefer is the first to suggest that the Yeti is in fact a rare species of bear. His skeptical suggestion still convinces Himalayan explorers today. But the explorer and zoologist finds himself increasingly drawn to the Tibetans themselves.
Remember, all this was Christian.
While Tibetans seek spiritual enlightenment, Schaefer is drawn to a dark side, their beliefs in violent monsters and bloodthirsty demons.
Typical Christian. Typical Christian. What do you expect?
In the Tibetans, he glimpses a warlike past. The expedition film lingers on the figure of Mahakala, a wrathful Tibetan deity with a headdress of skulls.
Combine that with the
wild, proud, invisible Mahakala. You feast on mountains of corpses. You down oceans of blood with
living all this fairy tale. It's a typical Nazi Christian. That's what happens. Christophrenia.
Crossbones is a representation of absolute power over life and death, as worn on every SS cap.
See, that's what
now the expedition must live up to its sponsors' expectations.
Mix all that with Christianity, you have Nazism.
For the five men are hoping to fulfill a great dream, to reach Lhasa, the legendary capital of Tibet. There they will find the highest nobles and perhaps exert some political or military.
See, what happened is that Christian Hitler, considered a new Messiah, what he wanted to do is unite the politics, and religion. And he combined the religions of Catholicism. He was very, very good friends with the Pope, the Vatican. And then Lutheranism. He loved Martin Luther's book of the Jews and their lies. Von den Juden und ihrer Lügen. And of course then pagan German ruins. Just like in the ancient Roman Empire. Don't believe me? Read Hitler's Bible. Just like a Mormon book. It's all based on the Gospels, on the Christian Gospels, like any other religious.
To mathematics, it was really the mathematics of the master race.
See?
Ahead lay Lhasa and its secrets. Officers had not forgotten their primary mission, to collect evidence of common German-Tibetan roots.
See?
A research objective pursued above all by Schaefer's colleague Bruno Bega.
Christ-psychosis, of the Nazi kind.
Bruno Bega was the expedition's anthropologist. He was a member of the SS, and he was fascinated by race theory. How you find out the differences between different races, and in his view, what made a particular race superior or inferior.
Typical.
He was fully committed to this ideology and intended to pursue that scientifically
typical
by traveling to Tibet.
Right there.
To recruit volunteers for his studies, the SS scientist offers free medical treatment. At home, he has drawn up criteria for forcible sterilization in order to eliminate unworthy life. Baker is fascinated by death in Tibet. He witnesses a sky burial.
Typical, see that?
On the bare rock face lay
Just
three
like
naked
Christians.
female corpses tied to boulders.
They believe in afterlife.
The flesh is cut off and the bones battered to...
The Egyptians represented the soul as birds with human heads. And the birds will take him into heaven.
Around on the mountains sat hundreds of hungry and greedy vultures.
Exactly, they will go into heaven.
That morning hour of the grisly vultures' meal was one of the most impressive experiences offered to us on our visit to mysterious Tibet.
So 3,000 years ago.
It was a faster destruction of the flesh than any cremation could have achieved.
Exactly, and they go to heaven. The belly of a bird.
As an anthropologist, Baker is, however, first and foremost interested in living subjects. This is why he is here, to convert people to data, to search for signs of the Aryans among their proportions. His method also entails making facial casts for later comparison. More than 200 subjects are recorded. They little suspect they are taking part in a scientific experiment that will end in mass murder.
Yep. You know, the Christ killer, the Jews.
The Nazis' ideal of a pure Aryan type from which they descend was supported by the German science of the day.
Yeah.
The 1938 expedition
modeled after Julius Caesar.
Physical proof.
Italian.
I suppose everyone has a rather
Greek
clear idea of what an Aryan is.
Greek mythology.
You see
right
images of Aryans throughout Nazi culture.
Yeah.
These
all
are
Greeks,
tall,
Roman,
blonde, blue-eyed Superman.
Bodies.
And it seems at first to be completely absurd that you would look for relatives of Aryans who look like this in the middle of Asia, especially on the roof of the world in the middle of Tibet. But this is what the Tibet expedition was going to do.
Christophrenia.
It was going to find connections between these peoples who seemed so different.
Many other religious folks looking for myth, garbage, due to the mental illness.
Behind this is a very complex theory that essentially suggests that long ago there was a magnificent Nordic or Aryan civilization that was so superior, so talented,
like
that it founded an enormous empire that spread across the world, from Europe to Asia, as far as Japan.
Like Joseph Smith and the Mormons.
When this empire collapsed, it left behind traces of its presence in the peoples in these far-flung parts of the world.
Including Tibet, especially among the country's nobles. They are supposed to have preserved the Aryan heritage at its most pure. The expedition anthropologist Baker is keen to find evidence that links to the original Aryans. His caste making risks the whole expedition. On his first attempt, he omits straws to breathe through. The victim has a panic attack and narrowly escapes death by suffocation. Silence has to be bought with a bribe. Nevertheless, Baker eventually produces a collection of Tibetan heads. Faces he believes conceal the characteristics of the Aryan super race. To prove this, he records anatomical details to enable him to compare them with the measurements of Northern Europeans, supposedly the closest of all descendants of the Aryans.
It's like looking for the face of Jesus Christ
Baker
and all that
uses
crap.
the standard objective methods of German anthropology. He reduces hundreds of Tibetans to numbers.
Has anybody seen the pictures of Jesus Christ?
Their eyes and skin.
Making these measurements was only really the starting point for Baker. He then had to process all these figures he had accumulated. Now, by doing that, he would, in a sense, boil them down and use the result to find out whether people were different or similar, related or not related. It's not that different from genetics, really. Modern genetics does almost the same thing with various kinds of
This is classic pseudoscience caused by a neurological problem of believing God. Like the conspiracy of Atlantis and all these religious sects, all Christian, based on Christianity, like Mormonism is one of them. They believe in this spaceman, Scientology, Christian Science, all this are very dangerous. It's a dangerous psychosis. And There's no morality in Christianity. Pace Dio.